Well, today we have got a lot to catch up on as we reflect on a pretty memorable season for Northern Irish football. First, for our club, it was a domestic treble and dominating the Irish Premiership for the first time. For the nation, well, it was European progress on the coefficient front. We'll have a full national team review as well and see what we want to do ahead of next season at Distillery. Yes, hello and welcome along to part 127 of this Build a Nation story, Lifting Spirits with me, Daniel. We are back today at the end of our 13th and by far most memorable season of this save so far, as we dominated the Irish Premiership for the first time, won just our second ever title, our first ever treble, and made huge progress both on and off the pitch. We'll have a look at all things Distillery, plan what we want to do in the summer, and see what's happened to the European coefficient. But we'll also have a look at how we're getting on the other side of things as manager of the Northern Ireland national team. This Build a Nation is going to the next level now, and we have got to start building both club and country. If you're looking forward to seeing how I plan to do that and finding out what progress we've made so far, then please do put a thumbs up on the video. We're going to do things in our sort of reverse order to normal because the season review officially won't be till after the playoffs, so that will come at the end of the episode. We're going to start with a big look at the coefficient screen, then we'll do the national team, then we'll get to what we want to do in the summer and the season review. But let's go over to a screen we haven't looked at for a couple of seasons now. And boy, has it changed a bit since we were last there. As you saw this season, we had 3 teams in European group stage football. Last year, both us and Linfield made the latter stages of the Europa League. I say latter stages, we got through the groups. And this season, 2 of the 3 teams got through the group in the Europa Conference. We got to our first ever quarter final. And Larne, of course, managed to pick up points in the group too. So let's have a look at what that's done for the rankings. Not national team, where we're edging up to the top 50 now. But onto the nation club coefficients, where Northern Ireland, as you can see, are making huge progress. There's 3 brilliant years in the last 4, which are ranked 8 point something. The worst 2 years are the ones about to come off. The Northern Irish football is due to move up to 16th place next year. That is now 1 place away from Switzerland, which is an attainable coefficient in 15th. And then we get big progress on the qualification front. If you look at the places when you get to 15th, you get 2 teams in the Champions League, you get 1 team in the Europa League, and you get 2 teams in the Conference League. As you can see, moving up to 16th doesn't really change much for us at the minute. Only 1 extra round in the Europa League, but nothing in terms of extra teams. The crucial thing from 15th up is you get 5 teams in Europe, and 3 of them have got a great chance to make the group. So if we can have 1 good year next year, and Linfield and Larne can preserve their coefficients a bit, we should be in pretty good nick. If we have a look at the club coefficients individually, we are now making some financial gains from the unallocated prize pool, which means we're in a pretty good coefficient spot. If we go and have a look at the Northern Irish teams in full, all of them have had a better year this year. But for Northern Ireland as a nation, we are now 107th overall. Larne are 108th, but their best 2 years are due to come off, so they need to have a good year next year. And Linfield, well, they had 2 pretty good seasons, so they are now up to 117th. The goal really is to get all of them in the top 100, get some unallocated prize money, get good seedings for the qualification rounds, and hopefully make it through to the group stages, because this is the biggest test for next year. We have now got the Champions League qualification route, which is great for us. We're basically guaranteed European football. But for the other 2, qualification now becomes harder. Linfield were making it most years purely because they were starting in Champions League qualifying, so you couldn't really fail. You see the 1 year where we won the title before, we had our best year. Larne and Linfield both had stinkers. So this is where next season's going to be a test. Those 2 clubs have gone forward in terms of quality of players, in terms of development, and in European performance since as well. But they need to get through to the group stages next year. At least Linfield do. And hopefully by the year after, if we do well next season, and with some of the poorer years coming off for others, I mean, we're going to beat 2 coefficient points. And hopefully the season after, we will have 5 teams going into Europe, and 3 of them getting a pretty easy route to the group stages. That is all we can hope for. So that's the coefficient front. We have a look at the 10-year revenue one as well, because it is interesting to see Are these clubs going to make extra money from other means? And to be fair, there's starting to be a bit of progression on that front. Linfield and Larne are way ahead of us still on that because we had the first 5 years not in Europe at all. But that's going to keep progressing quickly for us, and those two are getting good money from it. So that is a massive sign for the future. We're getting 150, 200 grand from it, so they must be getting a bit more. And they're progressing on and off the pitch, which is also important to this save. We are moving towards Build a Nation stage now, and I am looking at, with the players we've got, some of them I'd like to keep as backups, but can I move them on to other clubs in this division? I feel like that helps us more if we do. If we have a look at what's going on off the pitch at our club, you can see that we've got training facilities improvements on the way. There is also an agreed one for the youth facilities as well. That's the screen we were looking for. So we've got 100% of our requests approved for last year. It seems the board are very much on board with us. But the youth facilities will be completed in 4 months. The training facilities in 1 month. I mean, we're going in the right direction, aren't we? We've had, as you can see, a youth recruitment and junior coaching budget increase. Everything is pushing forward. If we have a look at the facilities now, bar the stadium where the attendances are really annoying me. I hope the reputation improves soon and we get to move on. If you have a look at the rest of it, exceptional academy coaching, excellent youth recruitment. I think we're actually at the top for junior coaching now, whereas the training and youth facilities are both going to go beyond average this time, and they're going to keep improving every year. Basically, when we get that 2.5, 3 million prize money for getting to the group stages each season, that's being spent on that. And then the wage budget is being covered by the fees we get for winning any games. So that's what we want to stick with for now. We have got some big decisions to make for the club this summer. We'll go and reflect on the playing squad in a minute, but let me first take a little pit stop at Northern Ireland, the national team. So as you saw a moment ago, we have snuck up to 50th in the world rankings. We were around 60 when we joined, so we've moved up a few positions, but we've not really had much progress since the World Cup, because if we go and have a look at the end of last year, we played in a Nations League group that was very tough because we'd been promoted, of course. You saw the initial spell where we were brilliant, and this was the reward. We had a group where we were probably the underdogs, and we managed to sneak third place, so we stayed up. 2 wins against Greece did the job. They went down as the bottom team, and we nicked a draw away in Poland as well. But as we lost a couple of those experienced original players, your Jamal Lewis, we've now lost Ballard, we've lost Kofi Baumer as well. We are starting to struggle a little bit because while we've got replacements coming through of a good quality, they're not players that are spread across the squad in all positions. So we've got 2 or 3 where we're very average. We've got a few of our players near the squad as well, but bar Neil Kane, no one's really in there at the minute. But I should mention that Linfield's Kerman Mackey is still a key part of the squad. He is someone who, as you can see, is very much up there with what we've got, at club level that is. This year though, we've got the European Championships qualifying, and I really want to make it to the Euros. With 24 teams, there's no real excuse. We've probably played the 2 biggest seeds in the group already, and bar Belgium, I don't think there's anything to fear. Israel may be decent opposition, we'll find out in the home game next time out. Belgium will win the group, we know that for sure. But we won away in Ukraine, they're not as good in this save. And Israel, we don't know what to expect. But we should really beat Andorra, we should beat Montenegro. We'll see what happens with the rest of it. Fingers crossed it will be successful. If we go through to the squad, you can see I'm trying to bring down the average age slowly. We've got 1 more that's retired since the last squad, but we're bringing in 20-year-old left-back and centre-half Cameron Thompson, 23-year-old midfielder, 24-year-old full-back. I'm trying to slowly revolutionise it, but it's going to take a bit of time because us Linfield and Larne have only really been able to afford our upgrades in the last 2 or 3 years. So those academies, they're bringing through some good players now, but they're at 16. They've got to get to 21. We're talking 5 years probably now. So let's go back to club focus and get that next stage sorted out, because once our academy is flowing and bringing through Northern Irish gems, the national team will start succeeding as well. If we go and have a look at our squad at the moment, you can see already from the right side of the screen, I'm trying to sort out a few contractual things, and I want to put a little bit of focus on something else this summer, because you can see from 1 or 2 of the contract offers that they're a little bit surprising at the moment, but I want to try and utilise something I haven't done since probably the 3rd or 4th season, which is the reserve squad. Now, the benefit in Northern Ireland of having a proper reserve squad rather than an under-21s or whatever is you can build a pool of half-decent first-team players that are happy to not play much first-team football, but will hopefully be able to contribute in an emergency, as well as helping out young players that are coming through to the first team. So we had it near the start of the save with people who were here as amateur contract players or came in very early in a save and were just happy to sit there and play football every weekend. They're getting paid very little, but they're happy to be involved. Now, what I want to do is take that to the next level. Those players in our squad now who are an emergency backup, but maybe a homegrown in the nation, they can now become players in our reserve squad. So an example of this is Lewis Scott. Scored against Linfield on the final day of the league season, has been out on loan 3 or 4 times, but is homegrown at the club. Doesn't have to be registered to play in the league squad, doesn't have to be registered to play in the cups. Lewis Scott can play 2 positions, is still very competitive by Northern Irish club standard. He's good enough to play in the cup against second tier teams. He's probably good enough to play against the bottom 6 in the Irish Prem. And having him not as a first team squad member, but helping out our young players whilst being an emergency option, it really does appeal to me. So that's one thing I want to try and do this summer and help him work alongside the likes of the Caulfields, Cliff O'Connell, as they continue their development next year. The other thing I need to do, though, is improve the first team. Now, we've got a couple of crossroads this summer because Paul Ray is going to be returning to his parent club. We can't get him back, so we need a left back next summer. We also need to sort out the left wing because we've got Parry and Lafferty who aren't that great. Maybe we keep one, sell one and get a first teamer. It's going to depend on budget though. And it's going to depend on this because I've been doing a little bit of looking with the agents and things like that. And both Gavin Reid, who will become homegrown at the club this summer as an improving massively as well, and Jordan Gash, who is an England under-21 international and probably our best centre midfielder, are both seemingly willing to join the club permanently. Now, Jordan Gash, if we go and have a look at him, is willing to join for a modest wage and for 150 grand to 1.5 million. He's even reducing his demands there to 2.5 grand a week. If we go over to Gavin Reid, he's worth 6 or 7 million quid now. But the last 2 seasons, he's had an optional future loan fee of 1.2 million. We go to the agent, he's now happy to join us permanently for an affordable wage for the agreed fee of 1.2 million. Now, if we can get those 2 in for a combined, say, 1.5 million of upfront money, that's great. It is absolutely unfathomable that we don't do those deals because one of them would be our best centre midfielder instantly, and one of them is one of our best players who's homegrown at the club. You can't turn those deals down. But what that would mean with our current budget is that all of our transfer money is gone. And then maybe we have to sacrifice another year of Ben Parry on the left of midfield and getting another loan player to fill the gap at left back rather than improving more areas of the squad. But I would argue if we get those 2 players in on permanent deals, that becomes a well worthwhile exercise. We've also got the option to get Luke Smith on loan for another year, which I think we're going to try and do. Max Whelan's out of contract, won't sign a new one. Paul Ray is not playing that well and he's not wanting to stay anyway. So it makes sense for us to get the 3 we can. And surely, I mean, let me know in the comments what you think, but if we can get Reid and Gash permanently for within our wage structure at the moment, surely we have to do it, don't we? Because we are a year or 2 from getting that reputation rise and from the league getting its reputation rise as well. And when that happens, we saw it in the Bangor save 2 years ago. Suddenly the value's times by 10. Suddenly you get players wanting an extra 10 grand a week. And we've got to be wary of that. I think this is a brilliant way to future-proof ourselves and potentially make an awful lot of money as well. There are a couple of players I'm worried about. Merivale Austin won't sign a new deal. He's got 1 year left and he's got a 1.2 million release clause, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. I didn't show you actually when we were looking at the coefficients. I didn't show you how the league was performing overall. We'll go and do it quickly here now, because it had moved into the top 35 last year, the reputation creeping up and up and up. And if I show you what that means, it is at the moment one of the best rated 2.5-star leagues. It's above League One, it's up there with the Spanish second tier, it's above the Irish League of Ireland Premier Division 2. But if we go up a little bit, it's 4 places away from being 3-star and up there with Serie B, the second French division, etc. That would be a very different level. Now, that would probably increase the league reputation, attendances, and all the other stuff as well. Definitely the TV money, which is already creeping up, and the prize money for winning a league. And that's the part we've got to focus on now. Helping the other clubs, which, thankfully, unlike Wales, most of them are professional. Most of them have got a close enough to us reputation that we can loan them players, whatever else. But to be able to keep doing that, we've got to drag the league with us, and that is the most important thing here. So hopefully we'll get our reputation increased this summer, but the rest of it is all going to be down to what the nation does. Let's go and have a look at our end of season review. Let me know if you agree with my transfer plans as well. But let's go and look at the big stuff. We've got to reflect on the treble, and hopefully we'll find out some good financial news. Well, it's taken just over a week and a half, but we have now got our season review. We've also had plenty of good news off the pitch as well. Transfer work getting done quickly. Luke Smith's loan has been renewed. We've also got some good news on the youth recruitment improvement. That is up to exceptional now. The facilities won't be far behind, of course. And we've also been improving the staffing team, which I know we haven't focused on quite as much as usual the last few seasons, but it is still a very important part of things to me, probably more important than the playing staff, and we are upgrading in certain positions. So just having a look across here, we've got loads of new coaches coming in, loads of big improvements, and we're hopefully going to have 2 more big ones to come. We're negotiating for a new assistant manager, and we're negotiating for a new coach as well. A couple of them that have come in this summer really are improving the standard we've already got. So Tommy Elphick is one as a senior coach, very good working with youngsters and very good across the board. And then going further down as well, Jared Harvey is another one to come in. Excellent tactical coach, good motivator, etc, etc. And then we've been doing a lot of work on this sort of stuff that I'm normally not that good at focusing on. The performance analyst, the big upgrade to the physiotherapy team. We're about to bring in a new head physio. We've already bought in a new actual physio, who is a huge upgrade from what we had. And we're trying to invest a bit more in that side of things now as well. We've got new scouts being negotiated too. So in the long term, I'm hopeful all of that will make a difference. But let's go and get through to the season review. 3 trophies underneath there for the first time. It is a big opportunity to move forward. Of course, the League Cup final, we lost due to that red card as well. But it was very close and it could have been a quadruple. As the aim for next season, everyone. No SPFL Trust Trophy, which is a shame, but those 3 and a European quarter final not to be sniffed at. Let's have a look at the arrivals, because for the first time in many years, this has been remarkable, and this has been the big upgrade we were waiting for. Johnny Merriweather-Austin came in, 19 goals in 23, 8 more assists, 7.73 rating. Mark Scully is not far behind him and scored more than 1 a game. Stephen Cowan came in for $250,000 last summer and was exceptional despite a few poor games at the end of the year. Max Whelan was the lone player before Mark Scully came in. He was brilliant and in Europe performed exceptionally. Ben Parry ended his loan, became a permanent deal last summer, and he made a big contribution. Maybe not the standout star of the team, but still 17 assists and 8 goals. Luke Smith was excellent on loan, became first choice this year and will be staying on loan again next season. Tommy Murphy added huge depth at right back. Instead of having, I don't know why they've put F. Why on earth would you be that upset about it? Look at the rating he's got. Look at how he's played. Why are they disappointed? Last year, our backup right back was the likes of Bobby Harvey or John Lynch. We have made huge progress. Jordan Gash comes in midfield. If we can keep him permanently, that will be a gem. What a signing he was. Damien Jude stayed, he was brilliant. Duncan McKenzie, rock solid at the back. Why they're disappointed, I don't know. And then a couple of squad centre-halves who both did okay. And the players out this summer, more than any, probably give you an indicator of how far we've improved. Sean Daniels went out. Tom Robinson, we got 400 grand for. Brian Varma, $250,000 Coleraine. Lance at Lewington and Jones, both for 160 odd grand. I mean, we've made huge upgrades to this squad. There's no doubt in it. The lone players that went out, Ethan James, he was a backup right back last year as well. He's gone to Coleraine, helped them get into Europe. They won the playoff and he got man of the match. He will now go there for another year if he accepts. Paul Symington did brilliantly at Glenavon. He's someone I'd kind of want to have back because if you look at him, he's pretty good. But Glenavon have made a bid to sign him permanently. It was agreed in the loan deal anyway, so we can't reject it. And if he goes to a bottom half team like Glenavon, that is part of what I was talking about earlier, improving the nation. I mean, he could do a pretty big job of that on his own. Tennant Dykes, Jonathan McElhatton, Morgan Farrington, Archie Whitehall, he was involved in the first team last year, as was Sam McClelland, as was Jaffet and Pardy. I mean, we are going to the next level. And hopefully, most of these boys stay in the nation and improve another side in the Irish Premiership. If we go through to the season results, it was dominance in the Irish Prem. We lost the last game because we didn't need to win it. But what a total. 106 points, Linfield didn't really do any worse than previous years. It had always been around the 90-point mark, but we managed to go to that next level, and hopefully we can do that next year as well, because the average attendance is creeping up. The form was remarkable by the 2 defeats to Linfield, and hopefully we can sustain that, because in the other competitions we went out in the Europa League, but we got our revenge on Lech Poznan. In the Europa Conference League we beat them on the way to the last 8, played Premier League Leeds and got a draw at home. In the Irish Cup we beat Linfield in that final despite having 10 men. In the League Cup they beat us 2-1 as we went down to 10 again. In the Shield we won every game convincingly, and in the SPFL Trust Trophy, just frustration really. Because of the run in Europe, we only had 2 days between games, and we had no real choice but to give it up, because in some places we were playing the third option or the third choice player. And looking ahead to next year with what we want to do with the reserve team, hopefully that will help us go to the next level and compete on all 7 or 6 fronts depending on how many we're in. The moments to remember are a big win against Warren Point in the Irish Cup. That was ridiculous. A 2-2 draw at home to Lech was the match to remember. I mean, we saw it on camera. I'm not sure about that. It was a great game, but from 2 up, I was disappointed. And goal of the season was Curtis Bell. After all of the stuff we talked about, Curtis Bell was the star of the show. We might have seen that on camera in the same episode as the Lech game, actually. They were only 4 days apart, but what a season it's been. The finances are moving on. There's the big news. The reputation is up to 2.5 star. We'll get a slightly higher calibre of player, help our support base grow, and greatly improve our commercial revenue. Tick, tick, tick. The big news as well, sponsorship deals, 2 new ones, about 140 grand a year, and everything is moving in the right direction. Could we maybe make the Champions League group next year? Who knows? That's going to be tricky. If we have a look at the best 11, they've gone for Miles Stow over Paul Ray, which shows you how poor he'd been this season. They've not put Damien Jude in, which I think is a bold call, but that's because Damien Dunn was so good and they wanted to squeeze him in somewhere. And they've gone for Lafferty above Parry, which again highlights that the left wing is where improvement is needed. I'm also surprised they've gone for Murphy at right back, ahead of someone who's been brilliant in Gavin Reid. But overall, it's a brilliant team, and I guess the backup players are playing against weaker opposition, so they're always going to get inflated average ratings, whereas the first 11 are going to be pegged back by a Leeds game, for example. So we can't be reading too much into or be too upset by this best 11. Let's go and look at the accolades. We have 1 manager of the year, loads of manager of the months, most clean sheets for Neil Kane, most player of the match to Stephen Cowan, worst for discipline for Gavin Reid, fastest goal for Mark Scully. Fans Player of the Year was Stephen Cowan, Young Player of the Season and Signing of the Season to Merivale Austin. Mark Scully hard done by there, the top scorer. Damien Dunn still got 19 assists. Let's go and have a look at the history in the making. A domestic treble for Lisburn Distillery, and a big season is on the way. What a season of progress, what a save so far, and we are finally moving on to the big stage with this football club. It's going to be a massive summer for all 3 of the big boys as they need to improve for European qualifying too. And there's lots of transfer work to look forward to already. And that's just from the week and a half I've had since the start of this episode. If you're looking forward to next season as much as me and seeing if we can make the Champions League group stages for the first time, then please do put a thumbs up on the video. I'll leave it on this screen so we can marvel at how well we've done again. If you want to stay up to date and make sure you don't miss anything from the rest of this save, then subscribe and turn that notification bell on. We'll be back in a couple of days' time with our big transfer special, as well as our first Champions League qualifier. In the meantime, we're back tomorrow with deadline day from the head coach and an attempt at revenge, which is explained by yesterday's episode. That's up in the eye above, another transfer special there, as well as the Twitch channel, the football podcast and the blog posts as well. But thank you very much for watching, for following this historic season at Distillery. It's going to be a great summer. I can't wait already. I'll see you next time as we move into the new one.